Peace and light, that old guy, Australia. Like, share, subscribe, Instagram and YouTube. Here we are, 4th day of the new year. I'm doing a video I didn't want to do, but I felt the need to do it. In fact, I went to have a lay down watching the Test cricket, and it just filled my head. And I thought, I've got to get this down. So here it is. I'll make it as quick as I can, and I'll make it as clear and concise as I can. Now, you've seen the title, and I just want you to bear with me. Is that okay? Just hear me out, then make up your own mind. Now, an incident happened some days ago. I'll get to that in a second. But here's one thing I want to say to you to start with. I've said this before, and it's the only bit of advice that I think I'm capable of giving, and it's not even mine. This is actually a biblical quote given in a context that I use it. You ready? The body is made up of various parts. None of them are more important than the others. The ears, the eyes, the nose, mouth, legs, arms, fingers, feet, whatever may be the case. They're just as important because they all make up one body. Now, without those parts, the body is not complete. Some days ago, a man was arrested, the biggest influencer on the planet, forget the Kardashians, who only service themselves. A guy called Andrew Tate. No matter what you might think of him and his brother, makes no difference to me. I've said that. I just want to explain something to you which I think is important. Some people think Andrew Tate is part of the body. Oh, he's the butthole. However, without the sphincter and without the butthole, you can't poop. You can't poop, you die. So everything has an importance in the body. Now, it just so happens a lot of feminists think that Andrew Tate is a misogynist or a sexist pig, and that's usually due to a 10-second video they've seen that's been edited, and they've not seen hundreds of other videos or any interviews of length. I find some of his stuff difficult to watch, and on the other hand, I find myself cheering a lot of what he says. And I would hope that most people would think much the same about myself. All right? That's free choice. But here's the problem. The Tate brothers have amassed a small fortune. They're quite wealthy people. His brother was 4-time Open World Kickboxing Champion. Andrew Tate won the title twice. So if you're going to get in a ring at 6'3" and 200 pounds, and you're going to have someone of a similar size want to dismember you and knock you into oblivion, there's something you need to have that us mere mortals lack. I wonder if you know what that is. If you know the name Conor McGregor and you're interested in the UFC, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. If you know Tiger Woods from golf or Novak Djokovic from tennis, not to mention Kyrgios, then you'd know exactly what I'm saying. If you do not have the self-belief, the discipline to think that you are doing what you're meant to do and you belong where you are, and that you have every intention to being the best the world has ever seen, you may as well just leave it all alone. And us mere mortals often mistake that for just arrogance. But you have to have that kind of self-belief. Think Serena Williams. I don't know of any world champions who just went, I went out and thought I'd have a bit of a kick around, hit around, whatever might be the case, and I don't care whether I win or lose or whatever, and here I am, world number 1. What the hell, that happened? No, it doesn't happen that way. Perseverance and discipline and training. These boys are trained, these boys are disciplined, and they're very wealthy. They've invested very well. Now, that doesn't make them good people. But Andrew Tate has been involved in some things that you may not know about. Andrew Tate has spoken openly against Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab and Agenda 21 and Agenda 30. He has denounced them, spoken against it publicly. He has offensively spoken against the entire COVID narrative and its operation worldwide. He has been blatant about it all, and he has been publicly condemnatory of the jab and its effects. So you would know straight up on those few things that he's made some pretty high-profile enemies, because this reeks of the US military complex. Mark my words. Now, the problem that occurred was when Andrew and his brother and the two girls in the room with him, one's his girlfriend, the other is a former Romanian police officer who's part of his bodyguard group, when they were detained, not arrested. If you don't know the difference between detained and arrested, you don't know the difference between not guilty and innocent. Yes, there's a difference. When they were detained by the Romanian police, this is not the first rodeo, by the way, they've tried this several times. The world's media were there. They'd been tipped off, they were there. And that footage was sent to every news outlet around the world, and they just whammed it out there, crowing like a rooster at dawn. Now, since then, the media's been very silent. Their job was done. So who picked up on the story? Why is it being travelling all over the place like wildfire? Well, the Truther community and the Freedom Party's got hold of this, and they've been discussing it amongst themselves, fueling various amounts of discussion that has led to creating divisions amongst people. So the media's job was done because we're doing it for them. So here's what happened. If you think that these mad elitists just have one plan, then you're delusional. They have many exigency plans, 20 plans for every scenario. However it may happen, they've got a plan for it, and they've got plenty of them. So, that said, think about this. You start off by taking the main person who would be a spear point, and you blunten the spear by removing that person, that man who was the greatest scientist in medical history, that man who has more peer-reviewed articles than any other scientist in medical history, that man whose peer-reviewed articles are used or were used to peer review other scientists. That man, you'd think he knew what he was talking about. You take that man, you offer him a chance to come over to the dark side, and when he refuses, you delete him from the face of the planet. You get all of the social media sites and the web that you control. You take down all of his platforms. He no longer has any websites. You then remove all of his social media pages. There's none. There is nowhere he can reach the public, except for alternative platforms, which he's doing. You then remove him from his job and you defund him. Then you release previously prepared articles which smear him and debunk him and say pretty ugly shit about him. Job done. Exit stage left, Dr. Peter McCullough. The tip of the spear, gone. You then line up who's next, and you take that man. A man who has created amazing vaccines in his life, and his whole life has been the study of vaccines. A man who knows more about mRNA than anybody else, right? No matter what your neighbour says. That man who was a co-creator of mRNA jabs, that man, you offer him a chance to come to the dark side. He refuses. You take down his websites. He no longer exists. You remove all his social media pages. He's gone. You defund him. And then you release previously prepared articles which smear him and humiliate and debunk him in ugly ways. Job done. Exit, stage left, Dr. Robert Malone. You then take one of the great immunologists the world has ever seen, who you know is part of that spearhead, a man whose eloquency on the subject is second to none, a man who has done more presentations around the world on these subjects than any other scientist around the world. You take that man, you offer him a chance to come to the dark side. He refuses, you remove his websites. You take down his social media pages and he is deleted. You then remove all his funding and you release previous prepared articles that debunk him and smear him and ridicule Dr. Robert Cole. Exit stage left. All right? That main bushfire is now out. Now you're fighting brush fires all around the edges. But you can move ahead with your agenda. While you're putting those out and fighting more and more and more, you're pushing your agenda further and further and further and further and further down the track. Then you become aware of a man who's the world's biggest influencer, a man who has millions, multi-millions of followers, a man who's speaking against you, who's putting you down and making some pretty derogatory comment about what you're involved with. So you organise a plan to bring him down, but it doesn't quite happen. So you go back to the drawing board, you move some more chess pieces into the game, and you get him again. You take that man and you detain him, or arrest, the media says, on some pretty wild charges that are so vile, they make even his most ardent supporters grimace in shock. And he has nowhere to debunk this at the moment, but he will have. That man who has more influence than a Kardashian, that man who is the most searched person on the internet on a daily basis, recognised by Google, that man who's very wealthy and can travel around and has the power to get an anti-message against you out to the public, you take care of him. Exit stage left. The brothers, they're gone. The Tate brothers are out of the picture. You then become aware that there is a man who is mighty when it comes to IQ, a man who is so wonderfully conversative, a man who is eloquent, who is so popular his shows and his seminars sell out long before he even gets to where he's going. You become aware that he's talking a message that is against your narrative. You take that man and you then realise that he is part of a medical fraternity, and you get that medical fraternity, which is a psychology branch, to make a worldwide public statement that they're going to interview him and investigate him and possibly de-license him for what he has been saying and thinking. But this is not an easy catch. This is a very tricky fish. This man will jump and leap, and if you're not careful, like a mako shark, will be on board chomping on you, full of energy before you blink. Dr. Jordan Peterson is the next target, gradually blunting the spear so that those in positions of influence and power cannot speak against you, and you out there, the public, cannot possibly hear an alternative truth. You can't sit there and go, well, I wonder if there's anything to this. Well, you can't. As Jacinda Ardern said, trust the government. We will tell you what you need to hear. Do not listen to anybody else. We will give you the truth. She's speaking, of course, about the WEF, of which she is a graduate from the Young Globalists program. Klaus is very proud of Jacinda. He was proud of Scotty Morrison, but Scott, you are not there for the long run. You were only there to initiate things, and then you exited stage left, but you got a buddy-buddy job, so you'll be right. Now, the mere fact that the Truther community and the Freedom parties and their followers have picked up on this and are toxically discussing it and creating divisions amongst ourselves shows the plan that they wanted all along. Take the biggest man, knock him down, create an ugly scenario about him, and then get these people fighting amongst themselves. I'm astonished how people can't see this. I really, really am. I don't know how on earth I've had to sit there and listen to people say, well, Andrew Tate, according to the Rosicrucian index of star guides, his name adds up to 666. Oh, Andrew Tate, he's a paid shill. He gets all that money he got from doing the dirty work of the government. If I have to see someone else write that kind of stuff anymore, I will vomit. It is ridiculous. It is so stupid. I can't go any further. If you can't see the picture and you don't have that spiritual discernment, if you don't have any form of discernment, you're not going to go the full distance. You're going to fall by the side. You're going to expect someone else to drag you up and carry you half the way because you don't have the foresight to look and see what's right in front of you. That's my opinion. As I said, it's not the truth. That's my truth. Peace and light, that old guy Australia. Like, share, subscribe, Instagram, YouTube, and we'll catch you later on in the new year.